Hey there, just waiting for some viewers to come in. Hold on. Choo choo choo. All right, I think we are live. Yep, we're live. Let me know if you could hear me. Let me know if you could see me. I'm going to wait till we get more of an audience in so we have as much of an audience as possible before explaining the, I don't even know how to describe today, bizarre, concerning, very Trump-like circumstances of today, but I want to wait until more people come in. Press that like button. The more people that press the like button right under the video, the more people that will see this very live stream. We want to get as many people as possible to watch. I hope you don't mind, but we want to just wait till more audience comes in because instead of having to explain things twice, be able to explain it from the top first. So we got 200, almost 300 people watching right now. We need every single person watching. There is a thumbs up button right under the video. The more people that press that thumbs up button, the more people that will see this very live stream. Keep on smashing it, baby. Keep on smashing it. And by the way, this is a super chat. And after what we dealt with today, I hope, I'm not feeling super, but I hope you are. I know my cameraman, Jamal, is not feeling super. So we hope you are feeling super. Let us know in the super chat. You could leave any amount right there in the super chat. I'm going to keep my email open to see if the Buttigieg campaign responds to me. I have a request for comment out after what they just pulled on us. So we will see if they respond. So far, they have not. So we will see. We will see. Let me retweet while we are live here. Retweet status coups. We're live on Periscope also. And we really want to get this to as many people as humanly possible because I think what we just experienced is it's a real troubling sign. Forget policy for a second. Forget whether you're progressive, whether you're a neoliberal, whether you're a right-winger, whatever. What we just experienced as journalists is un-American. We've been seeing more of it creeping up in the last few years. But if this is how Pete Buttigieg's campaign operates with journalists as president, that's a scary thought. So I'm going to just once again keep pressing the share button to as many people as possible. Once we get to 500. Once we get to 500, we will start explaining what happened. So press that like button, press that like button, press that like button. I should also tell you real quick, we are currently at 1,176 status coup members. Our goal for the primary is to get to 1,500. So we need 324 more, 324 members to get to 1,500. Hopefully today we'll have more of you sign up. statuscoup.com/join. You can become a member for as low as $5. So I think I'll start explaining things right now. We are live on Twitch as well, twitch.tv/statuscoup. So we're going to bring Jamal on, my cameraman, in a few minutes because I think the story is honestly him. And honestly, like, I truly mean it. We're not interested in becoming the story in news. Like, I'm not. I don't think Jamal is either. But to report what happened today, there's no other way to report it than to say we're the story. And I'm just going to move my computer here. I hope people don't think I'm being rude, but I just want to make sure I'm not missing anything. So keep pressing that like button. We have 560 people watching. So before we get to what happened at the event, we need to give you the broader context, because some of you might not realize what happened before this event. And press that like button, keep sharing this, super chats, all that great stuff. So Status Coup went to South Bend, Indiana in December, right? So we are not, we have some momentum going right now, but we're not like CNN. We don't have a massive budget. When we go to certain locations around the country, we have to be very selective where we choose to go, because an average trip costs between $3,000 and $4,000. Iowa just cost us between $4,000 and $5,000 because the flights are so expensive, hotels are so expensive because of the caucus. The hotels here, just the hotel we're in now, is costing us $350 a night. That's more than a flight in some cases, because all the prices are up for the primary here in New Hampshire. So we don't have any corporate backing. We have no banks, I'm trying not to get demonetized, so fossil fuel companies. We have no corporate funding. So we chose to go to South Bend not because we thought it was going to get us a lot of clicks, but I had been told by so many African Americans there that, like, the corporate media is propping this guy up, and he is truly, truly a threatening person to the black community. I'm not saying a threatening person like Trump. I'm saying a different kind of threat. The gentrification that has gone on in South Bend under him, police department cover-ups that he knew about that have gone on. So I wanted to go and see for myself. So within 24 hours of being in South Bend in December, we broke a story that while Pete was still mayor at that time, while we were in South Bend, we broke a story that his police officers, while arresting a young black man, they didn't realize the young black man was live streaming the arrest. So they were imitating KKK members from the film Django Unchained. If you've never seen Django, it's a Quentin Tarantino film about Jamie Foxx is a freed slave, and the scene they were imitating were Klansmen, like, laughing and joking around on their way to try to lynch Django. Lied at the time and said it wasn't some little no-name news organization, so who cares? They didn't respond. Then the South Bend Tribune actually picked up the story. Of course, they didn't credit us. They didn't credit that we broke it. But anyway, they picked it up. They said the police department was investigating it. Obviously, that doesn't mean anything because, the police investigating themselves we know what happens with that. Am I that bright? Okay. So anyway, it was very odd because right at the time we broke this story, statuscoup.com went down. Our site's not perfect. It needs to be redone. If you're a website developer, email info@statuscoup.com. We need it totally redone, but we did it on a low budget. But our website has never gone down. We reported this story. It just crashed. Okay. So all of a sudden, after we break that story, we stopped getting emails from the Pete Buttigieg campaign. We signed up for his list so we could apply for media credentials to cover his events. No more. We stopped getting emails from his press staff. Obviously, that was in retaliation to our reporting. Pete Buttigieg, we kept on reaching out to Pete Buttigieg to ask him, do you have any comment about police officers, white police officers, while arresting a black man, basically playing out a scene from Django where Klansmen are joking around before they lynch Jamie Foxx? Campaign doesn't respond. Then a black resident in South Bend sent me text messages he had with the police chief in South Bend about that arrest in question. The police chief originally lied and said it wasn't his police officers that were at the arrest. The text message exchange clearly shows it was. And then the police chief tried to play it down, saying they weren't glorifying KKK members, they were mocking them. Whatever. Bottom line, Pete Buttigieg was mayor. While this happened, his police chief lied about it, and Pete Buttigieg was silent. about it, never commented. And because we don't actually have real journalism in this country, we have a bunch of stenographers going around with makeup and phones tweeting from corporate media, print, digital, because they don't actually challenge these politicians. Few exceptions. The Intercept is great. Democracy Now!, very few exceptions. The Real News, mostly independent media. This didn't get national attention. Could you imagine if Bernie Sanders was still the mayor of Burlington and his white police officers arrested a black dude and it was caught on tape, them imitating Klansmen? Not only would they call on Bernie to drop out of the race, they would call on him to resign as a senator and possibly have an FBI investigation. That's how it would happen. Okay. So we got 1,194 people watching. Keep pressing that like button. We need over 400 more of you to press that like button. So we're getting to what happened today, but I just want to give you the context. We had reported critically on Pete Buttigieg's campaign, and they kicked us off his email list, right? So they kicked us off his email list, and then we, I think it was, what night did we go to his debate? Oh, we were in South Bend. There was a debate. So we found out his campaign was having a debate watch party, and we went. And right away, when we walked in, it was very, very self-contained, like today. They said, if you're press, like, no shooting, no photos, no nothing. Very, 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 I would say, censored. And, you know, if you are what I call access journalists, if you are, you know, little compliant journalists who say, yes, sir, you know, yes, sir, we'll do whatever you say, you would follow that. But, like, why can't we take photos? Why can't we take video? What is it that you're trying to hide? The person at this debate watch party, this was in December, was talking about how, thank you, Seth Peterson, $100 in the super chat. Keep it coming in the super chat. And by the way, we could only go to South Carolina. We could only go cover Super Tuesday with more funding. So we need you to sign up as a member. If you're not a member, sign up, $5 to $10 a month. We're about to show you exactly what happened today. So we go to his debate watch party in December. They told us no photos, no video, whatever. Whatever. I took some photos. Sue me. I mean, if you want compliant journalists who are just like, you know, yes, they're good little Cub Scouts, fine. That's not me. Like, I'm not going to follow your directions to not take photos. It's not like I took anything controversial. I took some pictures of artwork, some paintings of Pete. Like, I don't know what. Every campaign thing I've ever been to him, it is so self-contained. There's such an effort to contain journalists and to keep optics looking a certain way. So while I was at that event, the debate watch party in December, a female staffer was watching me like a hawk and watching my cameraman like a hawk. She came up to me. They were monitoring my Twitter because I was live tweeting during the debate. And I don't pretend. I'm not a robot journalist. I'm not a neutral party. I don't support Pete Buttigieg. I personally support Bernie Sanders. It doesn't impact facts. I don't distort facts. Like, for example, I've said, Our Revolution, big fan of Our Revolution. However, they are not disclosing their top donors. I have a problem with that. So I'm willing to critically report on anything. And we have to hold progressives to the same standard we hold everybody else. So, for example, I don't think Our Revolution is dark money, as Pete Buttigieg has described, but I've criticized Bernie Sanders when I think, you know, he voted for the crime bill. Bad vote. But overall, I've criticized Tulsi Gabbard, too. I don't believe in just being like a fanboy to anybody. However, you have to, you know, Pete Buttigieg, to me, is a unique neoliberal threat. That doesn't mean I don't want to interview his supporters and see what they see in him. So that's what we did today. So after we reported critically in South Bend, we reported on Pete Buttigieg remaining silent as his police officers were literally imitating Klansmen while arresting a black man. Then we went to the debate watch party. They didn't kick us out, but we basically left because we couldn't do our job. They wouldn't let us interview anyone. And they literally repeatedly during this debate watch party kept making announcements reminding people, don't take videos. She literally said, we want this to be a safe space. So because we were removed from the press list, they removed us from the press list after we reported on the ground in South Bend, which, by the way, we would have never been able to even go to South Bend for a week without you. Statuscoup.com/join. Sign up as a member for as low as $5 a month. So we didn't we could find out where Pete's events were, but we couldn't apply for press credentials because we weren't getting the emails anymore. So somebody, a fellow journalist, I'll leave their name out, was nice enough to forward me his campaign's email with each event where you could apply for press credentials. So yesterday, Jen, co-founder of Status Coup, who is doing 25 things at once, give it up for her, applied for credentials for us. And I was shocked last night. We got approved for like every single event today for Pete's campaign. So when I go to an event, like, I don't have a plan. I just see what's happening. Sometimes I'm like, all right, we're going to go live. Sometimes I'd rather record. So I decided to record because we didn't have that much time to interview people outside. In fairness, credit to Pete Buttigieg, there was a very, very, very long line to get in. I would say, I mean, the gym was packed at this local, I think it was a middle school in Nashua, New Hampshire. He had a lot of people online to see him. There's no sugarcoating it. There's a lot of support, as you're seeing. Frankly, I mean, he got a huge boost because the corporate media inaccurately was describing him as the winner of the Iowa caucus for the last 5 days. And we see it in the polls that he went up significantly. So we get to the event. And, you know, for those of you that watch Status Coup, we're not stenographers. We don't do softball interviews. But you also need to kind of, you know, calibrate how aggressive are you going to go towards people. We're online. People are listening to us as we're interviewing people. I'm not going to like take a 2x4 over these people's heads. Honestly, I think I was very tame in my questions. So we're going to play some of the questions, just some of the interviews. We haven't had time to, we'll be posting all of these later, but we're just going to play some of them. So you get the idea, like, we were just doing basic journalism. We were just doing basic journalism. Do you want to add anything before I play?
No, just press shift down.
Okay. So we're going to play some of the interviews. Remember to press the like button. We have almost 1,900 people watching, but only 970 of you have pressed the like button. So the thumbs up button right under the live stream makes a big, big, big difference. That's how YouTube's algorithm work. So the more people that press that thumbs up button, the more people that will see the live stream. We're also live on Periscope, so you could share. I don't even know how it works, but hearts on Periscope and all that stuff. We're live on Twitch too, so follow us at Twitch, twitch.tv/Status Coup. So let me just play some of this for you. You tell me if this was, quote unquote, disrupting people online.
Interested in speaking, ma'am? No? Look. Anybody interested in speaking for a minute? Sir, you interested in speaking? Love to know what brought you here.
Actually,
Your friend?
my close friend
Okay. How you doing, ma'am?
is the Pete supporter. I actually am an Amy supporter, but
Oh, perfect. Intermarital conflict.
there we go.
Well, no, it's hardly conflict.
What?
I like them both. And
What's your name?
Mary Alice.
Mary Alice, and your name?
Mike,
Mike. So tell me, it's a nice cold New Hampshire morning. What about Pete drives you here?
My best friend lives in South Bend, and she's been telling me for several years now to look out for Pete, that Pete was the real deal. And I laughed it off at first, and then I started to listen to him, and I believe she's right, that he is the real deal, and he has lots of good things to say, so we wanted to come and hear him in person, too.
And what does she say about South Bend that he did that was makes him qualified for president?
I think he's run up against a lot of opposition in South Bend, and I think the fact that he's hung in there and done the best he could has been a hallmark of what he's done in South Bend. Everyone that I've talked to there seems to be very happy with him having been mayor. So,
have you heard from? Because obviously there's been some issues with the black community in South Bend.
That's an issue. Yeah, and I think that's going to be a nationwide issue. I don't know how he's going to fix that. Right. I don't know, but yes, that is an issue. So, I think he says the right things. I think it's probably hard to do the right things at this point, just being a candidate, but I don't know how he's going to fix that.
What do you think about, healthcare is the top issue, according to the polls? I'm going to be honest, he's been a little slippery. A year ago, he was for Medicare for all. Now he's for all who choose it. What are your thoughts on that?
He's not the only candidate who's slippery. I think that's part of being a politician.
Okay. And what about you, sir? You said you're more of a Amy Klobuchar person?
Yeah.
Why Amy over Pete?
She has a lot of the good points that Pete has, but she also has a lot more experience. And I thought her closing speech at the debate the other night, I said that, to me, that's the Democratic Party.
And it looks like Pete is kind of talking about turning this page and this kind of business. I went to South Bend, Indiana, and reported there. And I'm going to be honest, it's fairly a tale of two cities. It was redeveloped in a few blocks, but the rest of the city is struggling. What do you?
The story of American cities.
Right.
I come from Fitchburg, and it must be very challenging to be a mayor of a city in this time.
And what do you think in terms of Pete or Amy up against Trump? Do you think either of them would have a chance against Trump?
A chance. It's tough to go up against any incumbent, and he's raised a big war chest, so we'll see what happens.
Thank you. Enjoy. Bye-bye.
As you could see, a very disruptive interview. That was a very, very disruptive interview. So after, and folks, by the way, please, 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 I'm starting to see people sign up. If this is your first experience watching Status Coup, because we're getting a lot of new viewers, we got 2,139 people watching. 1,300 of you have pressed that like button. I need another 1,000 people. Press that like button. I'm not asking you for likes for my ego. It actually helps drive the viewership up. So more likes, the more people that press the like button, the more people that will see the live stream. Also, if you're not a member, this is how we fund traveling around the country. It's not cheap. We got to pay the cameraman, Jen, Colin, and we also flights, hotels, rent-a-cars, food. It's very, very pricey. So sign up, statuscoup.com/join. So I'm going to show you another interview that you tell me, was this out of control? Here we go.
Dean, cold New Hampshire morning. What's bringing you out for Pete? Obviously, he's gotten a bump since Iowa.
We're very excited about his campaign. It's a message of positivity and unity, and just like everything about Pete, very excited.
What are some of the things he did in South Bend that you think are positive?
Well, he has a great campaign going. He really had a lot of people out on the ground and spoke to everybody, people in rural communities, people in the city, and he really got the vote from a wide swath of people.
Anything he did as mayor of South Bend that stands out to you?
Yeah, he brought a dying community back to life, and that's why I like him.
What do you mean back to life?
Well, the community just has been revitalized under Pete's mayorship.
Okay. Because I've been there. It's a couple blocks he redeveloped, but the rest of the city is still struggling. So yeah, that's why. People
seem pretty happy with what he's done there. I've seen a lot of people interviewed from South Bend.
Mostly white people or African Americans too?
Both. He actually has a lot of African American support from what I've seen.
Okay. What about you, sir?
Just to reiterate everything.
You know, happy wife is a happy life. Have a good day.
So, I didn't exactly clobber them over the head, right? I mean, I think I was very respectful. I think you're detecting a pattern here, which we'll get into later, but we're not exactly clobbering them over the head here. I'm being honest, other than my cameraman, I did not see a black person in the line. It was a very long line. I did not see one black person. In fairness, New Hampshire is overwhelmingly white, but I did see some black people at Bernie's event yesterday. But I did not, these were standard interviews. I mean, I wasn't, in terms of what I am usually do, I think I was at like 10 or 20%. I don't think I was clobbering over the head because frankly, we're outside and people are listening. So if I go really, really aggressive, no one else is going to interview with you, you know? But you start to detect very little policy talk. They're not really talking about any of his policies. Nobody I spoke with mentioned policies of his, and most of them, actually, none of them actually knew of anything he did in South Bend. But you begin to detect a pattern that this is mostly based on persona. They like the way he speaks. They like the way he delivers lines, right? Very different than when you go to a Bernie event, or frankly, even in some cases, a Warren event. Right, pretty much first or second thing they say is about policies that they like, how Bernie or Warren, to a lesser degree, would affect your lives or help people's personal situations. We didn't get that. And I tweeted that while I was doing the interviews. And frankly, how I think it happened was I started to notice while I was interviewing people that there was a female Pete Buttigieg. I don't know if she was somebody who works as staff on the campaign. I don't know if she was a volunteer. She was definitely with his campaign. That she was not subtly monitoring me. Like she was right over myself and Jamal. I let it go at first because whatever, but she wasn't being subtle. Let's continue. We're good?
So.
Thanks, guys.
Yes.
Have a good one. All right, let's
So if you see this woman, I'm not trying to like dox her. I'm not trying to do anything, but I mean, she is what she is. She had Pete buttons on. She worked for Pete's campaign. I don't know if she was a staffer or a volunteer, but literally from like 500 yards down the line to there, she was following us the whole time. And I intentionally was like moving up, back to see if she would follow us. And she just kept following us. Honestly, I've been doing this for like 5 years in the field. I've never even had that at a Trump event. I've never even had it at a Hillary Clinton event, a Biden event. I mean, yeah, they kind of look at you out of the corner of their eye, particularly when they see your microphone and like, oh, they've never heard of you. Or if they hear you interviewing people and like it's edgier than like the New York Times. But I've never had somebody physically like over my shoulder. Jamal, come over here because you had said something to me while she was following us about, you're trying to keep it cool, but it's, I don't want to put words in your mouth. Introduce yourself and what you said.
Yes, my name is Jamal Jones. I'm the cameraman for Status Coup. I was in the trenches with Jordan today. Very interesting exchange. When we were online, this lady was following us everywhere we were going. We were being followed basically from the time that we were outside to the time that we got inside. And I noticed that, one, there were no black people online. That's what I told Jordan. And two, I was like, it seems like they have it in for us. Like they know that what we're up to. Like they know that they probably know that Status Coup probably did a piece on Pete Buttigieg. So we were probably on their bullo list. Be on the lookout. So yeah, I felt that vibe while I was filming. Like it was an unwanted, what the hell are you guys doing here vibe. Very creepy.
And we'll get back to you in a little bit. Sorry for the long wind-up, but it'll be worth it, the payoff. Okay, so by the time we were done interviewing people outside, and by the way, we got 2,600 people watching. Keep sharing. Press that share button. Press the like button. The more people that press the like button, it's a thumbs up button right under the video, the more people that will see this live stream. We want to blow this up, not just for Status Coup, but I think more people need to see this. Because once you find out what happened when we were inside, again, this has never even happened at a Trump event. I have been to Trump events that are honestly make you feel like you're in like some dystopian 1930s Germany kind of thing. And I've never had a press person, multiple press people, basically harassing me. Okay, so Unfortunately, we didn't get this exchange on camera. You'll just have to trust me, and Jamal could tell you. But before we went inside, when we were done interviewing people, and again, we're going to post the interviews. There was nothing out of the ordinary. There was not even like a testy exchange. It was just like the most follow-up I did was what you just saw, asking that woman, like, have you heard from black people? So I went up to the girl and I said, by the way, you're not being subtle. It's not subtle that you're following us. She said, and I quote, I know. She said, and I quote, I know. As far as following us. The reason I don't think she was a volunteer, the reason I think she was paid staff is, to me, based on what I saw in South Bend when we went to the debate watch party, that comes from the top of a campaign. The culture comes from the top. The protocols, the procedures, the basically operating procedure, it comes from the top. And to me, this isn't speculation, this is based on multiple events now, is keep your eyes on the journalist. Make sure nothing out of the ordinary happens. Make sure there's no fireworks. Basically, it looks to me, keep the optics good. And the reason I say this is because I actually went to South Bend, Indiana, thanks to your support, statuscoup.com/join. And I spoke with many black residents. I also spoke with a black journalist who said his administration, when he was mayor, would punish journalists that were critical. They would lose access. They would call the South Bend Tribune and in some cases try to get reporters fired or demoted for critical coverage. That comes from the top, Mayor Pete Buttigieg. So anyway, I say to this girl, like, you're not being subtle, that you're following us. I see her, like, kind of not sprint away, but walk away, and like she's furiously text messaging, and then I see her making calls. So I kind of knew, like, all right, you know, the fix is in here, what Jamal said. They obviously have us on a list. Obviously, like I said in the beginning, they kicked us off their email list. So the only reason we had credentials is because another journalist forwarded me his emails, the campaign's emails that they stopped sending us, and we pressed the link to apply, and they must have slipped up and let us in. So we walk in. Again, after interviewing probably 5 or 6 people, there was no issues at all. I was very nice. I'll talk to you once we're done about like the impression that Jamal and I got from interviewing these people. So we check in at the press desk like I do at every single event. Both our names were on the list. They gave us a name tag, which I've never been given a press name tag before at an event. I've been given a name tag at other things, but not like a campaign rally. So I found that kind of strange. Anyway, so they gave us a name tag. Again, we were on the list. We had credentials to be there. So we walk in, and there was a bit of a press holding area because, again, in fairness to Pete, this is a huge event. I mean, I don't know what the official count is. There was a long line to get in. There was a lot of people there. And I guess they had more press than they could accommodate. So they put us in a bit of a press holding area. Do I have the video? Can we find that?
Just press spacebar.
Thanks, guys. Have a good one. All right, let's interviewed them. You know, had a few challenges to his supporters, but nothing crazy. And towards the end, it was getting so ridiculous. I went up to her and I said, "You know, you're not being subtle." And she actually said, like, and I quote, "Yeah, I know." So at least, you know, credit to her, she acknowledged following us. But I don't really know why a staffer would be like over our shoulder all up and down the line interviewing people when we're just journalists trying to do our jobs. I assume she might have heard that we weren't just kind of doing softball love fest adoring interviews where we actually simply ask people, can you name some accomplishments of the mayor from South Bend? Did anything, Jamal, come across to you as we were unprofessional or too aggressive with people?
No, not at all. We were just asking people, you know, their reason for coming out here and, you know, why they support Pete. Very simple questions. Might be offensive to some other people.
And you said something to me, I mean, I don't want to speak for you, but you said something to me that it was uncomfortable for you.
Yes, it was uncomfortable for me because it feels like they know what we're up to, but they're just not willing to say anything. They just want to follow us. It doesn't really bother me. It just raises some concern.
And it's also like, you know, he talks about how terrible Trump is with freedom of the press, right? And it all seems very like trying to contain things, trying to self-contain the image. Because, I mean, let's keep it real. After Jamal and I went to South Bend, and after I did some fairly critical reporting, we were removed from his email list. We were removed from his campaign's email list. The only reason we were able to even apply for this event was because somebody I know working at a corporate media outlet forwarded me the events, and I applied. So we were removed at one point off his email list. Actually, we're still removed. And we were just doing interviews outside, very respectful, nothing crazy, and literally had somebody hanging over us. And when I basically said to her, "You're not being subtle," she didn't even like pretend. She was just like, "Yeah, I know." So it seems to me that that comes from the top down, a culture of, you know, keep an eye on the journalists out there. Make sure they're not, you know, asking real questions or challenging anyone, or, you know, we want to keep this image intact. And I heard this a lot when I spoke with residents, and particularly black activists in South Bend, that his administration in South Bend really, really, really controlled the media there. Obviously, you know, South Bend Tribune, small city, but really, really intimidated reporters, basically put them on blacklists if there were critical coverage. So this does not forecast press freedoms and having an open relationship with the press if this was how you were in South Bend and this is how you're treating independent outlets. We're not CNN or the New York Times, I get that, but we shouldn't have his staff following us up and down lines as we do interviews. That's just ridiculous in America.
So now we're inside. And let me just remind you, okay? We went up to the front desk and keep pressing that like button. We got over 3,000 people watching. 2,200 of you have pressed the like button. It's the thumbs up button right under the live stream. The more people that press that thumbs up button, the more people that will see this live stream. If you're new to Status Coup, make sure you subscribe. Click the bell next to subscribe for all notifications. And if you want to see more reporting like this, we have no money from the big banks. No money from the fossil beep. I say fossil fudgers. We have no money from big pharma, big real estate, Silicon Valley, the plutocrats funding the Democrats or the Republicans. Our money comes from you. So keep it coming. Statuscoup.com/join. Become a member for as low as $5. So we come inside and we did an interview with two Republicans who one of them now supports Pete. The other one was kind of on the fence. Again, we're going to publish it. It was uneventful. Basically, I asked the woman, "Why do you support Pete?" She didn't know any of his policies. She basically said, "I just like the way he speaks. I love that positive message." I said, "Okay." I asked the guy who was undecided, actually was like, "Yeah, he has no accomplishments. I don't want to put words in the guy's mouth. You'll see when we publish it. But paraphrasing, he kind of said, like, this is all hot air. Like, and these were two people who supported John McCain. So the woman, because of Trump, has moved over to supporting Pete Buttigieg. No, not because of accomplishments, but because of just the way he talks, the way he delivers, that kind of thing. The guy seemed to see through a lot of that and was not buying it. Anyway, we did one interview inside. Again, there was no issue at all. We interviewed probably, 8 to 10 people outside and inside. There was no problem. So and then once we pressed in, we were waited in a little section where they had media that they couldn't fit in. And then we heard one of his staffers say, U.S. media, only national media, please come up to the front. And so they were holding the local outlets back and allowing the national media in. So we walked up with our name tags. I don't still have it. We walked up with our name tags. We walked into the gymnasium. We went to interview people. And it was pretty standard. So within, maybe 5 minutes of being inside, this woman walks up to us. I debated whether to blur out their faces or not because, like, I don't want anyone to be attacking them. Like, they're obviously doing what they're told to do from the top of the campaign. So I don't want anybody to get the wrong idea. Like, it's not these people's fault. There is a culture at the top to basically, if you are not CNN, the New York Times, and obedient, compliant media that just serves you softballs doing interviews, basically regurgitates the lies you tell, and basically does glorified public relations for Pete Buttigieg. If you're not them and you're an outlet that actually does real reporting, then censor them, contain them. So this woman came up to me, and at this point I was just so irritated with being followed and frankly harassed. I'm not trying to be dramatic. I mean, I've dealt with a lot worse, but this is harassment at this point. So she comes up to me.
Introduce another great leader.
So after being harassed outside, we are now just had one of the staff come up to me and say, did we sneak in when there was literally a line? They said there was a line of press and they said U.S. outlets only, not local outlets. So we walked up and we walked through. And she just asked me, did we sneak in? So I said to her, it's interesting. I had one of your staff following me outside. And now I have you coming up to me asking if we snuck in. It's almost like your outlet, like your campaign, almost has an issue with me. And then she said, okay, thank you. And now she's texting somebody. So clearly they are monitoring us here. It's crazy. Absolutely crazy.
So because, we're not expecting his staff to just be sending person after person, we didn't actually get, what I said to her. But before she said, okay, I'm not going to lie, I was pretty testy. I was like, why are you guys on us? What is the issue? Do you see my name tag? What do you mean, did I sneak in? You gave me this name tag. The campaign gave us the name tags. We were on your list to get in. We waited in the area where overflow press was. And then there was an announcement. National media, please come up. We walked up. We went in. What is the issue? Why are you following us? Why are you coming up to me? So then, at this point, my instincts told me, we're either going to get kicked out or something's going to go down. So I told Jamal, at this point, we were recording. We weren't live. So I told Jamal, please go get our live view, which allows us to go live. Which, by the way, we could only purchase that $12,000 live view because of you great members. Statuscoup.com/join. Sign up. Statuscoup.com/join for as low as $5 to $10, unless you want to leave it to CNN and other corporate outlets to tell the truth of politics and the campaign. So I'm going to just give it up to Jamal now, because I don't want to put words in his mouth. He could describe what happened next. I told him to walk over and get the live view so that we could go live.
Yeah, so long story short.
No, don't long story short. Describe it.
All right, so I walked over to pick up our live view. We were about to go live, and when I was walking back, one of the staffers, Pete Buttigieg's staffers, she came up to me and she said, I don't believe you guys are supposed to be here. And I was like, what are you talking about? Before I said, what are you talking about? She was already ripping off my name tag. So essentially, I got assaulted. Before she even completed her sentence, she was kicking me out, saying that you guys aren't supposed to be here. And I was trying to explain to her, I have my name tag Jamal Jones. You see it right here. You just ripped it off. You just took my credential. She said, you need to leave right now. And I was like, I'm not going anywhere. I'm going to go talk to my boss. And as I was walking towards Jordan, she was already sprinting towards him. So it wasn't like she was following me, trying to figure out the situation. She was already sprinting towards Jordan because she knew exactly where he was, who he was, what we were doing there. We were trying to cover the event. But I guess, not to their liking. I was still confused at this point, so I really couldn't put together any words. I was just very upset that she ripped off my name tag and told me I wasn't supposed to be there. So, yeah, that's essentially the story. She took my name tag, she totally disregarded my credentials, and I felt like, well, is there something wrong with me being here? Is there something wrong with us being here? Because we're not doing anything. We're being professional video journalists. And as Jordan explained earlier, we were just asking very, very easy softball questions to the people on, at the event.
So to be clear, and by the way, somebody asked, was this recorded? He was going to get his live view. So like this moment wasn't recorded, but I mean, we don't have any reason to lie. And you're about to see somebody else came up after the fact and apologized to us. But I just want to be clear. You went to get your live view. When she came up to you, did she say anything to you before ripping your name tag off? Or did she just rip your... I want to just make sure people understand. Did she rip your name tag off and then say something to you? Or did she say something to you and then rip it off?
She ripped it off. I was walking back towards Jordan, and then this person just comes from the side, and she puts her hand on my chest and she rips off my name tag. And
Without saying anything.
Without saying anything. So she didn't start speaking until like I started to say what's going on here. So yeah, I had my space violated. I'm not making a big deal out of it. I don't want to be victimized. I don't want to victimize myself, but it seems like they put me in a very uncomfortable position as a video journalist, as a professional, and that was very unfair. So I don't know. It just speaks a lot to Pete Buttigieg's staff, his campaign, and to the man himself.
So it was kind of strange to me because, like, I have this. Do we have the woman? Yeah. So.
Following me outside. Excuse me.
So this is the woman who ripped his name tag off and then comes up to me. So, hold on. I basically say to her, well, you could hear.
Was following me outside. I have credentials. I can show it to you. And now you've had two people come up to me harassing me here. Is this what you do to the press? No, because I actually went up to somebody outside and said, why are you following us? And now inside you're coming up to me disrupting what?
So this is the woman who came up to my cameraman, and yes, he's an African-American male. I said to Jamal in the car, by the way, before we do anything, before I tweet anything, before I whatever, this is what I think of the situation, but I don't want you to feel, exploited or tokenized, because to me, it's unbelievable to me that a campaign with already terrible optics of how Pete Buttigieg was with the black community goes up to a black man. Honestly, you shouldn't put your hands on any journalist, but particularly a black journalist, when your campaign already has these optics and just pulls his name tag off. Like, what are you thinking? Even if you wanted to give the benefit of the doubt, let's say we actually did do something wrong, which honestly we didn't. After we're going to publish every single interview we did. We normally don't publish every single interview we did. I don't know any objective people that would watch the interviews we did and think any of them. Honestly, some of them I just was very soft, and I wasn't really that aggressive intentionally, because if you're overly aggressive, particularly on a line outside, nobody's going to want to talk to you. So it's just harassment at this point. And like Jamal said, we don't want to go too far. We're not saying that his campaign attacked him. We're not saying that his campaign we're not trying to dramatize this. But what do you call it when somebody puts their hands on you without your permission and just rips your name tag off? What is that? So she comes up to me after doing this, and we got Almost 4,000 people watching. Almost 4,000 people watching. So keep pressing that like button. We need over 1,000 people to watch this live stream. And by the way, I have emailed Pete Buttigieg's press secretary about this. Hasn't gotten back to me yet. Jen read the email. I'll read the email to you after this. But he hasn't gotten back to me yet, so we'll see. We'll see. Keep signing up. YouTube.com/statuscoup. Excuse me. Statuscoup.com/join. Sign up as a member so we could fund more of this reporting. To be clear, I don't know her name. I don't want anybody to harass or be going after people on Twitter. That's not what this is about. But, I mean, if this is how they want to treat journalists, I'm not going to blur their faces out. So when she came up to me trying to kick us out after yanking my cameraman, yes, my black cameraman's name tag off, I just had enough at this point. Then she tries to stop us from recording. Wait a minute. This guy, Mayor Pete Buttigieg, on the presidential debate stage, has quoted, I'm quoting him, attacked President Trump for attacks on the press, attacks on the First Amendment. And they're yanking my cameraman's name tag off, which we have credentials to be there. I could show you the email. We were approved to be there. Then she comes up to me like, you need to leave. Then when we're recording this, she's going like this. Is this like, are you this stupid?
I'm under the impression that you were disrupting people online.
Disrupting by interviewing them? That's disruption?
No, we've been told by people that they were disrupted by you.
What does that mean, disrupted? Is this how you treat the press? Do you see what's going on here? We literally interviewed people online. There was no issue. They were harassing us outside. And now they are coming up saying we disrupted people. People came up to us saying we were disruptive. And now they are trying to kick us out because basically they've been following us from the beginning of the event. And now we're trying to kick us out because we interviewed people outside. There was not one interview we had that was tense at all. It was all nice, kind. I literally have never dealt with any of this before at any event. Not a Trump event, not a Pete event, not a Trump event, not a Hillary event, not a Bernie event, not a Biden event. It's literally like swarms of people that work for Pete basically harassing us. Like, I have the credentials here right on my phone. We signed in at the front desk.
Yeah, he took my credentials right off of my chest, like I had it right here. And she just walked up to me. Before she started talking to me, she ripped it off. And then she's like, I don't think you guys are supposed to have credentials. I'm like, well, why did you just touch me? Why did you just take it off my jacket? What is wrong with you? This is Nazi Germany.
So before we get to the last hurrah, and we got over 4,000 people watching, and I'm seeing people signing up. Welcome, new Status Coup member Caesar. Welcome, new Status Coup member Corey. Keep it coming. Keep signing up. Our goal is to get to 1,500 members by the end of the New Hampshire primary. I don't know where we're at now, but we are expanding, so keep on signing up. So let me explain what I think happened, and I'm fairly educated on these things. Here's what I think happened. If you've been here since the beginning of the live stream, basically, after we reported critically on Pete Buttigieg in South Bend, Indiana in December, they yanked us off his email list. So we kind of, cleverly, maybe you could say sneakily, got into this event because a fellow journalist, a patriot, I would say. He's a corporate journalist, but I like him anyway. I won't name who. But a fellow journalist forwarded me the emails from the campaign, from Pete's campaign, with the list of events and the link to apply. So we wouldn't have been able to get into this event if it wasn't forwarded to us from somebody else, because Pete Buttigieg's campaign, their idea of freedom of the press is if somebody reports on you accurately but critically, if they are a no-name outlet, our name is rising now thanks to you. But at the time, they're not the New York Times, just get rid of them. You can't do that to the New York Times, So I think they realized, oh, God, this outlet, because I saw people furiously looking at their phones. I think they were monitoring my Twitter. I think they were looking at Status Quo's videos. And I think it dawned upon them, oh, how did they get in? They were on our, what did you call it? The beware of list. So I think they had realized, oh crap, we don't want them in here. And again, it's this mentality of, we got to keep the optics good. Because I'm being honest, I tweeted, and I don't think this was mocking Pete Buttigieg. I was literally reporting what I was hearing. I tweeted the difference between a Bernie Sanders rally and a Pete Buttigieg rally is night and day. So far, I've interviewed whatever at that point. I don't know how many people I said when I tweeted. So far, I've interviewed 5 people. Not one of them has mentioned a policy. Not one of them has mentioned a policy of Pete Buttigieg's. Not one of them has mentioned an accomplishment of Pete Buttigieg's. Majority of them just talked about they like the way he speaks. They like his positivity. They like unifying the country, these kinds of things. This is what they said. I'm reporting it accurately. I'm not saying I'm not tweeting Pete Buttigieg is a beep. I'm just pointing out the differences. And by the way, this was the differences when I went to Bernie events in 2016 versus Hillary Clinton events. It's the same kind of difference. Certain sections of voters aren't really voting based on policies. They're voting more on, perception, slogans, people that they feel are more like them. Whereas other people are voting on policies, what's at stake for them. It's just 2 different groups of people. It's accurate to report that. So finally, after that woman, again, I don't know her name, I'm going to say it, assaulted my cameraman, yanked his name tag off. And I thought it was interesting that she said to me, there were reports of you disrupting people online. This, to me, besides the assault of Jamal, was the most telling thing they said. Because translated, what that means, there were reports of you disrupting people. Really what they mean is there were reports of you trying to pop our bubble of turning the page, of, unity, of a new generation. There were reports of a journalist out there actually, honestly, I wouldn't even give myself that much credit. I didn't challenge them that much. I was pretty soft. You'll see in the interviews. I asked some follow-ups, but I wasn't exactly going hard, against Donna Brazil here, So it was just amazing when they say there were reports of disrupting. First of all, there were no reports of us disrupting. That's ridiculous. I think they're lying. There were no reports of us disrupting. The most tense exchange was the woman you saw where I said, oh, you said you've heard from people in South Bend how great he is. And I just said, have you heard from any black people? She said, yeah, I've heard from a lot of black people. Okay. I don't know who, because I've been to South Bend. I couldn't find one black person to say anything about him that was positive. But whatever, benefit of the doubt, maybe she did. But that was it. Other than that, it was all very calm. Welcome, new member. Alexis, keep signing up. Statuscoup.com/join. You can become a member for as low as $5 a month. So after this, somebody came up to me, and I think at this point, I think, again, it's very clear to me they were monitoring my Twitter. I think they were seeing that my tweets were starting to take off. So I think at this point, the mentality shifted to, instead of trying to harass us, to try and diffuse it so it wouldn't get any worse for them. They had already accosted my cameraman. So I think cooler minds, maybe smarter and more intelligent minds in his campaign, came up to me. Here we go.
I saw a leader that
harassing us.
I'm not trying to kick you out. You were allowed to stay. I was just telling you that you're allowed to stay. As long as you...
Excuse me, do you know one of your people came up to my cameraman without even saying a word and ripped his credential right off him?
I did not know that, but we
This is how you treat the press?
No.
I'm not saying you, but...
we apologize for you.
I interviewed his supporters outside.
Yeah.
There was no issue. One of your staffers was literally following me up and down. Okay? Then we wait at the press booth. Wait at the press booth. We sign in. I have credentials. He has credentials. excuse me. Then, after letting us in, we waited like they told us to. Somebody said, if you are U.S. press, please come up. Okay, so we came up, and we walked in. And then somebody came up to my cameraman without saying a word and just ripped his press thing off. So I'm not trying to be rude, but like, I've gone to Trump events and never had to deal with this.
And that should not have happened, and I understand that that's really frustrating, so I apologize on behalf of our team.
We're trying to do you a service.
I'm here to tell you that you are allowed to stay here, and we just ask you to follow the rules that everyone else follows. Not that I have seen you breaking them, but just that you aren't disrupting voters while they're watching, and then, which you're doing fine.
She said I was disruptive outside. We interviewed 6 people with no issue. There was not even an exchange.
We just ask all video cameras to just like make sure you're not blocking voters' views and things like that, which you're obviously totally fine here. So I apologize for the campaign treating you like that.
Listen, all I'm saying, for a campaign that has whatever issues with black people, to come up to my black cameraman and rip his thing off? I know it's not you, but what's your name? Appreciate it.
Now the question is, how do we make sure we bring that day about?
Her name is Cambria. She came up to me. She's now the 4th or 5th person that came up to me. In fairness, she was very nice. I was a little testy in the beginning because we're just being harassed. But she apologized for the people that came up. I explained to her that we were interviewing people outside without an issue, but one of your staffers was following us. And then we came up to the table, we signed in because we had credentials, we got a name tag, we walked in, we were in the back with press, waiting to get in because they had so much press that we had to wait, and then somebody announced, is U.S. press, for U.S. press, please come up to the front of the line, and local media stay back. So we went up to the front of the line, then we came in, and almost immediately we had somebody come up to us asking if we snuck in. I said, what do you mean snuck in? You gave us a name tag, and we walked in when you said U.S. media, come up. And then, what happened with you, Jamal?
Make sure it focuses.
In our growing communities in our industrial cities, and yes, in many neighborhoods
Yeah, so like I said, I went through an ordeal where I was just filming, doing my job as a journalist. A lady walked up to me and she just ripped the credentials right off my jacket and then spoke to me and said, hey, I don't think that you guys are supposed to have credentials. I don't think you guys are supposed to be here. And I'm like, well, before I could explain and ask, how did I get a name tag with my name on it if I snuck in? I was like, listen, I'm going to talk to my boss, all right? We're going to walk over there. You're not kicking me out before I had a word. And that's how we got into the argument.
So, wait. To be clear, she came up to you and ripped your name tag off before she said it.
She ripped my name tag off and then said, I'm sorry, I don't think you're supposed to have credentials. You just ripped my credential right off. I'm not stupid.
And let's explain to the audience, you were very calm, intentional.
Of course, I have to keep a straight face. I have to keep a smile on because anything other than, happiness, smiles, for a black man in America means a threat. And I don't want to seem threatening. I don't want to get kicked out. God forbid, I don't want the cops called on me. So yeah, I kept my composure, but I'm seething inside right now. I just feel so, I don't know what to say.
So, Pete's about midway through his...
By the way, after all of this, I don't know if you saw that woman who was just there. Can I rewind?
The J. Letter J. The letter J. The letter J. All right.
So this woman here, after all of this, there was still like a woman that worked for the campaign that was still basically like hovering over us. It's just unbelievable. So like even after that nicer staffer came up and apologized, they still had somebody basically like, it felt like boxing us in the back. So here's the deal. And by the way, we've had a lot of people signing up. So we are now at 1,184 Status Coup members. That's 16 members away from 1,200. We need another 16 of you. Press the like button. Also, sign up. statuscoup.com/join. Members get great bonus content too. So we only have one chair, so I'm going to swap Jamal in and out. But here's a couple of my thoughts, and we're going to try to turn this around as quickly as we can. So we're just going to be posting these clips to our YouTube, our Twitter. We're at Status Coup on Twitter. Obviously, you see the one woman who came up to Jamal yanking his name tag. You didn't see that part, but you saw her come up to me after, and you saw her go like this. So we're not making this up. And thank you so much for all the super chats that are coming in. I see them. So here's the bottom line. I don't pretend to be a Pete Buttigieg supporter. I'm not. And because of that, his campaign, if this gets more attention, if even the national reporters have to pay attention to us, and this incident, they're going to try and discredit me. Because they're going to just say, he's not a journalist. He's like a Bernie bro, whatever. Of course, that's what they're going to do. My guess also is they're going to try and drudge up some stuff from the past. That's fine. I'm always open. I personally, if I'm a news consumer, I prefer journalists who are open about their political opinions, are open about their personal biases, so you know what you're getting. I don't fudge the facts. My reporting is solid. I've done reporting all over this country. I've done reporting in Flint and Standing Rock, so I don't just do like campaigns. I've broken stories before, so they could try to discredit me if they want. But the bottom line is this. When you are, there is racism and then there's white privilege. The white privilege, the total, not even out of touchness, just lack of understanding of how to treat African Americans, just like you would a white person, is unbelievable to me. Because you want to know something? I truly, truly don't believe that woman would have come up to me and yanked my name tag off. I don't think she would have. I'm not saying she is consciously racist. Most racism is not conscious, it's subconscious. But when you come up to an African-American journalist and pull his name tag without even saying a word to him, and then say, I don't think you're supposed to be here. According to who? Explain to me. How about come up and ask us a question? How about say, hey, can I see your email with your credential? Like, can I see your email that you got a RSVP to be here? How about that? I'd be a little irritated, but that's better than just coming up to us and yanking my name tag off. Not mine, Jamal's. It's outrageous, and it shows a total lack of concern for a black person, but also a lack of understanding that this is completely inappropriate, what you're doing. And by the way, Pete Buttigieg was on stage. It's not like he was calling the shots, but culture starts at the top. Can you imagine for 1 nanosecond if this happened at a Bernie Sanders rally? If Bernie Sanders staff came up to a black person and yanked that person's name tag off and tried to kick them out, Joy Reid would be going nuclear. So, there are journalists who will say, oh, they're just trying to play this up. They're just trying to make a big deal. No, we're not. This is a big deal. It's not just one person. We were followed outside. When I approached that staffer, "You're not being subtle," she said, "I know." It was like then a game of telephone. She then furiously called and texted other people. Then it's like a neoliberal SWAT team. Then we get in within 5 seconds. They're like, "Did you sneak in?" I'm like, "What are you talking about? You gave us this name tag. We were on the list. Did we sneak in?" Then another person comes up, yanks his name tag, and then they say, "Oh, we were getting reports of you being disrupted." No, you weren't disruptive. We have the receipts. We have the receipts. We have our interviews. We're going to post them rapid fire. We weren't being disruptive. They are trying to maintain optics. They are trying to maintain an image of Pete Buttigieg as somebody who could bring together different Americans and end the divide. As I said to one woman that I interviewed very respectfully, every presidential candidate that's ever lived, that's what they talk about. We got to bring people together, do this, do that. It doesn't mean anything. You want to know? The country's always been divided. Frankly, it will always be divided. So that's not a policy. That's why I asked them, because I kind of, before I came, knew like these people were going to be light on policy. So I'm going to give it up to Jamal. I'd like to give it up to him and also have you guys ask questions. To be clear, we're not trying to like TMZ this. We're not trying to make this an issue. Honestly, the reason I'm so upset is because this is a pattern with Pete Buttigieg, not his campaign, with Pete Buttigieg. I could say this not based on speculation, but based on based on going to South Bend. If you're new to this channel, click on playlists on the homepage. Click on playlists and then click on Pete Buttigieg. We got a whole lot of videos on the ground reporting in Pete Buttigieg. Reporting in South Bend on Pete Buttigieg. Welcome new Status Coup member David. Welcome new Status Coup member Amy. So, welcome new Status Coup member Margot. Keep it coming. So, we got all the videos. And I heard from black resident after black resident after black resident. Not only that Pete Buttigieg gentrified South Bend. This whole idea of revitalizing South Bend, really, that's what that means. And it's not just South Bend, Chicago, New York, D.C., Seattle, San Francisco, Portland, San Jose, Cleveland, Milwaukee. Gentrification, we know what that is. It's just pushing poor people out and handing the city to white, rich developers. That's what gentrification is. If you see a Whole Foods, be scared. His accomplishment there was selling 5 blocks downtown to rich developers, basically telling them you don't have to pay any taxes, making it very pretty. He spent $26 million on a skating rink, putting in a lot of roundabouts with statues, and putting in, Joe Biden's campaign actually tweeted this out yesterday, putting colored lights, like creating a light show under the river. It was beautiful. While his other accomplishment was, that he claims is one of his big accomplishments, was demolishing homes, 1,000 homes in 1,000 days, in black and brown communities, which we're going to show that video in a little bit if you've never seen it. We actually drove around. It is a sea of empty lots. And he claims these were homes in disrepair. They were abandoned. That's true. You know what else is true? Many of those homes were from homeowners that wanted to repair them but didn't have the money. You know, poor black and brown people. And when those people tried to work with Pete Buttigieg's administration to get some investment to help them repair those homes, his administration used code enforcement to fine them and demolish their homes. Jamal, I want you to come in. Tell me if I'm being dramatic. Tell me if I'm describing anything inaccurately. I'm going to read off some questions from the audience. Cool.
Yeah. So, just to say that I'm not, an ambulance chaser. I'm not looking for a story where I can be seen as the victim. We honestly today, we're just trying to do our job as video journalists. And I've never encountered such, opposition to independent media or to journalists and what they do until today. My final thoughts are that I think that Pete Buttigieg's campaign needs to look really hard at the optics of what they how they treat black people. They already struggle getting the black vote. Pete Buttigieg has a record of just basically destroying South Bend for its black residents, making an almost uninhabitable city. I was there on the ground. I know what I'm talking about. I have video. And now this situation that I encountered, is very personal to me now. And I would say one ironic thing that I just now realized, while all of that was taking place, Pete Buttigieg was on stage speaking. We were literally about, I would say, 100 feet away from Pete Buttigieg, the man himself. So it's just like, man, I don't have anything good, any good thought, any good, thing to say about him, And I think that America needs to know the truth about Pete Buttigieg and his campaign.
By the way, we are at 1,192 members right now, so we are 8 members away from 1,200. Welcome new member Mary. Welcome new member Laura. Welcome new member Ariana, Ravi, Alexis, Margot, Amy, Caesar, Corey. Keep it coming. Statuscoup.com/join. I want to ask you, I don't just mean this. I'm not asking you this as an African American. I'm asking you this because you've done film work. So this is like freelancing for us the last few weeks is your first foray into like real news reporting in the field. Does it because you had said to me at first when we first saw this woman following us, like, does it make sense to you like that a campaign would be that like draconian to basically be monitoring certain journalists? Like, what does that say to you about how he would be if he was the Democratic nominee at the DNC? How he would be if he was president? Because obviously Trump does not care about press freedoms at all. But this is kind of Trump-like, what he pulled today.
Yeah, it's just like it harkens back to basically Nazi Germany. I don't mean to be so dramatic, but it's a lack of freedom of the press, and you feel like, well, Trump is, he's against the press. He calls the press enemy of people. But this is basically the same thing, just, from a Democrat, and from a Democrat who has a lot of skeletons in his closet. Like I said, the optics don't look good when you're accosting black journalists who are trying to cover, just you and your campaign, and you have all this shit. You have all this stuff, that you've done in the past that people can bring up. Why would you take that risk? Why would you tell your staff to be on the lookout for certain journalists, like we're back in Nazi Germany, like this is a socialist state? It's just, I don't think there's a lot of consideration for black voters. There's not a lot of consideration for what America wants. It's just really, he's trying to win his way into the presidency at any cost. And that means suppressing any negative news about him. That means suppressing anything that he may have done in the past. And it's truly disheartening. I would say that Pete Buttigieg isn't a good candidate. Like we said, we're video journalists and we try to be as objective as possible. But if I were to say a word, personally, I think that out of the field of Democratic candidates, Pete Buttigieg is the absolute worst, in terms of who could possibly be elected to president. If he's going to do this as a candidate, imagine what he could do as president.
As a Jew, I will politely push back. I don't think it's quite at Nazi Germany level. However, yeah, I don't think it's Nazi Germany, but I do think it is a true. And this is kind of what Pete Buttigieg, he's a Rhodes Scholar. He went to Harvard. He was a McKinsey consultant. This is kind of, served in the military. This kind of behavior and this kind of mentality from the top of a campaign to basically contain the image, contain the optics. Don't get me wrong. Other campaigns certainly try to, maintain an image and try and keep optics good. But I have been to Trump events that literally did resemble things out of Germany in the 1930s. Okay? I never had a Trump person follow me, a campaign person at least. I've had them yell at me, but never follow me. I've never had them yank my stuff or whatever. This is crazy. It's crazy. Some people are saying to you, some people are pointing out that do you think if you were a white journalist, they would have done that?
Of course not. You know, like I said, I felt singled out. You know, the optics don't look good because I was the only black journalist that I saw at the event. You know, there weren't a lot of black people at that event to see Pete Buttigieg. We went up and down the line. There were probably very few people of color. You know, that's just a constituency. That's New Hampshire. But it's like, well, wouldn't you guys think twice about singling out somebody out of a sea of thousands of people where there are very, very, very few of one, you know, minority? Yeah, I felt singled out, and you know, it just makes me think about my safety for future video journalist assignments. But you know, I just have to stay diligent, and I have to know that, you know, if the news needs to get, you know, seen by the world, I have to do my part to share it. And yeah, I'm going to continue doing this.
Thank you, sir. I just want to read to you. I'm not going to hold my breath, but I want to read to you what I emailed his campaign press secretary. My assumption is they are monitoring social media right now to see if this really takes off. So if you could be so kind, definitely go to my Twitter at Jordan Chariton. Jen, if you could put the link in the super chat, retweet the tweet, and we're gonna post the actual clip of that woman coming up and going like that after we go live. But we got to get this out. I'm not just doing this so like status coup goes viral. I'm doing this because people need to see this. So I want to read to you what I wrote the campaign. Jamal, don't shoot yet. I want to make sure I blur out his email. Okay. So I emailed the press secretary. Again, not at all. I'm not holding my breath. Don't expect a response. We will see. So I wrote, "Good afternoon, Chris. This is Jordan Chariton with Status Coup. In fairness, you may be unaware of an incident that occurred as we covered your Nashua, New Hampshire event, so wanted to explain it to you and get your comment. Myself and my cameraman applied for credentials and received them last night. We arrived and did what we do at every candidate event, interviewed voters outside and inside. Outside, we interviewed 5 to 6 people and had no issues. I noticed after the first interview, a female staffer or volunteer following me as I moved up and down the line interviewing folks. It was quite clear she was monitoring me and my cameraman. My cameraman, a black man, said it was almost like she was on top of him. By the end of my interviews outside, I approached her and calmly said, 'You're not being subtle.' She replied, 'I know.' I then saw her furiously texting, calling people, perhaps other campaign staffers. Perhaps other campaign staffers. The whole thing was bizarre considering we had pleasant and uneventful interviews with people online waiting to get in. We then walked in and checked in at the press desk and received our name without issue. We had credentials for the event via an email your campaign sent us last night. As we walked with other press in the holding area, a staffer of yours announced, 'U.S. News, please come up.' So we went up and walked into the gymnasium where we had a pleasant interview with a Pete supporter and an undecided supporter. Another staffer of yours approached me saying, 'Are you credentialed for this event or did you sneak in?' Irritated at being essentially followed by your staffer outside, I asked her what the issue was, pointing out that we checked in at the press desk. They gave us a name tag and we entered when they called up national news to enter. She then walked away. Then, as my cameraman, an African-American male, went to get his live view unit, a female staffer approached him and, before saying a word to him, touched his chest and ripped his name tag off. She then said, 'I don't think you're allowed to be here.' He then said, 'You just ripped my credential off.' She then responded, 'You need to leave right now.' She then walked up to me and was saying we needed to leave. I asked why, and she said because, quote, 'we received reports of you disturbing people online outside.' Besides that being absurd and not even remotely true, my cameraman came up to me and explained she had just ripped his name tag off without even saying a word to him. She then walked away from me. A few minutes later, a different female staffer approached me, I believe her name was Cambria, and apologized for how your staff had treated us, which we have on camera. She said we're fine to stay. In 5 years of reporting across America, from the most violent of Trump rallies to Standing Rock, I've never had a political campaign basically attach themselves to me and my cameraman, monitoring every move we make, and frankly assaulting my cameraman, pulling his name tag off that your campaign gave us. All of this comes after your campaign removed us from your press list weeks ago after we reported critically on Mayor Buttigieg on the ground in South Bend. Before I list my questions, I will respectfully say the mayor owes my cameraman a personal apology. This is not how you treat the press, even press you believe are critical or not esteemed. If he wants to go further and be transparent, I'm available for an interview anytime before the New Hampshire primary. Again, not holding my breath. My questions, as we are about to go live. Does your campaign have a policy or protocol to monitor journalists at events while they conduct interviews? If so, what is that policy or protocol? Number 3, does Mayor Pete think it is appropriate for political staff to lay their hands on a journalist, black or white, and rip their press tag off without even saying a word to them? Number 4, what does this kind of treatment towards an African-American journalist say in the broader context of the complaints from black residents of South Bend about their treatment by the mayor during his terms? Number 5, what exactly did your campaign staffer who approached me talking about, quote, reports of us being disruptive to people online outside mean? We have the videos of the interviews, which were uneventful and standard journalism. Number 6, Mayor Pete has attacked President Trump's assault on freedom of the press. Is this type of harassment, monitoring, and attempts to contain journalistic reporting what Americans should expect from a President Buttigieg? Look forward to your response, Jordan. So, yeah, maybe we'll be getting that response in 2021. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know what more to say. Honestly, I think it's outrageous what they did. We are going to be cutting these up in clips, posting them at Status Coup on Twitter as soon as we can. Please, please, once you see it, if you don't follow at Status Coup, follow us. Please get this around. It's just outrageous. We didn't sneak in. We had press credentials. I mean, if they want to say we didn't have press credentials, let me find it. Here you go. Media logistics. Pete Buttigieg, Nashua, get out the vote rally. Media logistics below are for planning purposes only, not for reporting. So I won't share the details, but this is the email we got last night. 7:43 p.m., February 8th. That was last night. This is the email you get for press credentials. When we went up to the front desk, we checked in. They had our names on the list. So, honestly, oh, by the way, we are on Instagram too. Instagram.com/status coup. Instagram.com/status coup. We will clip this up and put it on Instagram too. So I don't know what more to say. This is outrageous. Frankly, if you look at the series of events that have happened over the last 7 days, okay? Look at what has happened over the last 7 days. 2 days before the Iowa caucus, Pete Buttigieg's campaign complained to the Des Moines Register, one of the biggest polling newspapers in the country. They consider it's called the gold standard of polling. Des Moines Register complains. They don't release their poll for the first time in 70-something years because Pete Buttigieg's campaign complained about one person who was called by the Des Moines Register and wasn't offered Pete Buttigieg as a choice. That is unbelievable. Like, truly unbelievable. When I say unbelievable, I mean I don't believe it. You don't not release a poll because one person wasn't offered a certain candidate as a choice. Every single poll, if you want to go through the trouble of reading it, because Jen and I do all the time, every single poll has, as a disclaimer, this poll has some form of human or technical error or is subject to human or technical error. They spiked the poll because it showed Pete Buttigieg at 16%, and Bernie Sanders at 22%. Okay? You could say, Jordan, that's irresponsible. You're a reporter. You shouldn't speculate. That's fine. You could say that. I don't know that for fact. That's my opinion. Because it's journalistically laughable to think the Des Moines Register would not release a poll 2 days before because of one instance. If there was many incidents, yeah, okay, one instance. So they don't release it because Pete's campaign complained, not Joe Biden's campaign. And in that poll, Joe Biden was, I believe, in 4th or 5th place. Pete's campaign complained. This comes in the broader context, as Status Coup has reported. Pete Buttigieg has had support from the establishment dating back a decade. In 2010, when he ran for mayor the first time, this unknown guy from South Bend, Indiana, was getting big donations from staffers that worked for President Obama at the time, Hillary Clinton's inner circle, the whole establishment neoliberal class. Statuscoup.com if you want to see that story. Jen, I know you're doing 20 things. If you can find that story, put it in the super chat. This Buttigieg, for some reason, Obama world, Hillary world, were funding this random guy in South Bend, Indiana. So there was a bit of a grooming for Pete a decade ago. Then they spiked the poll. Well, when it was leaked on the day of the Iowa caucus, what does it show? He's at 16%. Behind Elizabeth Warren, who was at 18%. Behind Bernie Sanders at 22%. Okay? The average error of the Des Moines Register over the last 20 years, the average error in polling, that means what the difference was between the last poll, not the last poll, but their polling and the actual results is 4.2%. So usually the highest they've been off on average is 4.2%. The results that were released have him at 26%, whereas the last poll 2 days before showed him at 16%. If you believe that, hug for Jamal, they're saying, if you believe that Pete Buttigieg outperformed the Des Moines Register, the gold standard of polling, by 10 points, if you believe that, okay. Then, on the night of the Iowa caucus, Pete Buttigieg goes out and declares victory with 0 numbers, 0 results. And the media just eats it up and picks it up. Can you imagine for 1 minute if Bernie Sanders went out and declared victory on camera with no numbers? Can you imagine? Oh my God, Jennifer Rubin would have a stroke at the Washington Post. Chris Matthews would have a stroke at MSNBC. Pete Buttigieg does it, they eat it up. You're a hero, Jamal, they're saying. So there's been a series of events the last week that it all kind of bends to propping up Pete Buttigieg. Maybe it's because the minds of the establishment see, like, you know, Uncle Joe needs to take a permanent nap. I don't mean like, I'm not wishing him anything bad, but like Uncle Joe is, you know, stuck in 1980 and he's just not going to make it. He's not going to make it. So they're saying like, all right, Biden, we can't depend on him if you're the establishment. So now we got to pivot to Pete, because who else are you going to do? Amy Klobuchar, there's not enough time for her to rise up in the polls. Warren, tanking. So everybody's turning to Pete, and they're hedging their bets. Let's try to prop up Pete now, and if he can't do it, all right, we got Mayor Billionaire waiting in the wings. This is what's really going on, because you would have to, so literally, he goes out there, declares victory. Nobody knows the results. There's no numbers at that point. I remember I was live for 4 hours. And thank you, by the way, if you watched me on the night of the Iowa caucus, I was live for 4 hours. And we got over 100 members. We got over 100 members to sign up that day. And right now, we have, I don't know how many people signed up, but keep signing up. Welcome new member Annie. Jen, if you could send me an updated member count, that would be wonderful. So then the next day, after he pulls this stunt, CNN is basically reporting him as the winner of the Iowa caucus when we don't have any, we had 62% of precincts reporting. Jim Sciutto goes on CNN saying, well, Bernie lost to a small town mayor. And I tweeted at Jim, here's a CNN reporter falsely reporting that Mayor Pete Buttigieg has won the Iowa caucus with, at that point, I can't do math, but well over 30% left to go. And it was, at that point, it was outrageous in itself that they were reporting this piece by piece. And then we found out, well, it's not actually the Iowa State Democratic Party making these decisions to do this. It's Tom Perez and the Democratic National Committee, as CNN reported, who's running the show. You think the Iowa State Democratic Party was calling the shots to release 62% of precincts reporting, then to release 71% of precincts reporting, then to release 75%? No. What they were basically doing was, day by day, trying to deprive Bernie Sanders the normal momentum one gets after winning the Iowa caucus. Normally, you have a press conference that night, you get a huge increase of fundraising, a lot of media attention, you get a bump in the polls. Really, what this was to deprive Bernie Sanders of that bump and to give it to Pete Buttigieg. Even though, not even journalists, there were literally people on Twitter, just random people on Twitter. There were journalists too, but random people on Twitter were posting like crazy numbers of irregularities that were in Iowa, which, by the way, can you imagine for a second the amount of irregularities you saw now? What the hell was going on in 2016? Bernie lost by less than a point. How are we supposed to know that there wasn't errors then? Then the process wasn't transparent like it is now. Then we didn't even know the popular vote number. It's possible Bernie Sanders won the popular vote in 2016. But the point is, everything is being released to benefit Pete Buttigieg. You have CNN declaring him the winner. I saw Slate.com, how Pete won Iowa, with like 29% of the precincts left to report. You have, as I reported at Status Coup, Jen was reporting all of this one day as I was traveling. Literally, they're releasing the results for certain counties, like Sioux County. Sioux County in Iowa. They're releasing it like 12 out of 13 precincts reporting. Sources on the ground in Iowa are telling me, wait a minute, they have all the numbers. They've had all the precincts for like 3 days. Why are they releasing 12 out of 13 precincts? Oh, it just so happens the missing precincts generally were the ones where Bernie Sanders won, but they're not releasing those numbers. So basically, this was a coordinated way of staging a victory for Pete Buttigieg. And then, to top it all off, with 97% of the precincts reporting, and by the way, I don't even take the numbers seriously, other than the popular vote. I don't take the state delegate equivalent. It's a fake number, basically. I don't take it that seriously, but whatever. With 97% of the precincts reporting, Bernie Sanders is rapidly closing the gap. He's about to take the lead in state delegate equivalent. Tom Perez tweets, enough is enough. We need to recanvass, which means revote. And then we find out Tom Perez and the DNC got a call from Pete Buttigieg's campaign that morning, complaining because the reason Bernie Sanders was closing the gap was because of the satellite caucuses. If you don't know what that means, it's the first year they did satellite caucuses. Let me make sure I'm not missing anything. Oh, wow, we're at 1,210 members. Holy cow, we've passed 1,200. Keep signing up. Statuscoup.com/join. Sign up for as low as $5. By the way, if you're a new member, go to members content on our website. You'll see all our behind the scenes content just for members. Statuscoup.com/join. Then you can't make this stuff up. It's so corrupt. Then Pete Buttigieg's campaign is complaining because the satellite caucuses are the reason Bernie Sanders is closing in. The satellite caucuses were the first time they've ever done this. They were for people who couldn't caucus at night. Maybe they were, had night shift workers. Some of them didn't even live in Iowa. They were from Iowa, but maybe they live in Florida now. You had satellite caucuses for college students that are from Iowa but go to college out of state. You also had satellite locations in Iowa for Latinos. First-time Latino voters. You had satellite caucuses at mosques for Muslim voters. You had satellite locations specifically for black communities. You had satellite locations for union members. Like there was a lot of satellite locations for people who don't generally vote and for minority groups. Bernie Sanders' campaign was the only campaign that actually invested resources into those satellite locations, and he cleaned up. So if a Democratic Party who for 20 years, maybe longer, has been pushing identity politics. Basically, like, we need to find a black transgender woman to run for mayor, is the Democratic Party. Not that I'm against black transgender women. love them, but this is what they've said. Not about policy, but we just need to find people that look a certain way. And as long as we program them to offer crumbs, to offer half measures, to offer, Medicare for all who want it, which really doesn't mean anything. It's not a real plan. But we say, look, we're the party of diversity. It's just neoliberalism with a black face or a brown face or a transgender face or whatever. That's what identity politics is. And then you get attacked. Oh, Jordan, you're diminishing the voices of black people, this and that. No, I'm not. I would love to see Nina Turner be the first black president, the first female president and the first female black president. I mean, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. It's about policy, not what they look like, their gender, their sexual orientation. Pete Buttigieg. I think it's great that a gay person is running and being considered, but he's a neoliberal gay person. So I don't care if he's glow in the dark. I'm not for him. So let's get this straight. And we still got 3,000 people watching. Pete Buttigieg's campaign complains that the Des Moines Register tanks their own poll. Pete Buttigieg's campaign complains that the satellite locations that Bernie Sanders is winning with black people at the satellite locations, with Latinos at the satellite locations, with Muslims at the satellite locations, that they're getting too much weight. And the caucus system is very complicated. I don't even think the politicians there understand it. But was complaining that the state party was giving too much weight as far as a state delegate equivalence to the satellite locations. So Pete Buttigieg, who has a major problem with the African-American community, is basically saying, don't give as many delegates to sites where Latinos voted, black people voted, and Muslims voted. Where are you, Joy Reid, on this? So it seems like for the last 7 days, like Pete Buttigieg has been calling the shots. His campaign has been calling the shots. My theory, the Democratic Party sees like, I don't have the, wait, do I have the graphic? Oh my God. If I have this graphic right now, I'm going to jump for joy. Hold on. Where are you? Oh boy, I don't have it. Oh, here it is. I think the Democratic Party started paying attention to what Status Quo has been saying for months. That, the Titanic was coming. The iceberg was coming, Joe. I think they were realizing that, Joe Biden's about 7 to 10 years too late. I'm not trying to mock him, but we had this graphic 6 months ago, Jen, because anybody with eyes, and by the way, do you know how many journalists I've spoken to that all of them are chattering, not on the record, they won't report it, but chattering, this guy's not all there. Again, to be fair, I'm not a doctor. We're not diagnosing Joe Biden or anything. We're not diagnosing Joe Biden with something. I don't wish him poor health. I don't agree with him. I don't agree with his policies. I think they've been destructive, but we don't wish anything bad. But journalists have been talking about, like, this guy doesn't look well. But they won't report it because, like, they don't want to get kicked out of the club. They don't want to get kicked out of the cocktail crowd, coastal club that is the corporate media. So basically, it's like Pete Buttigieg is pulling the strings here of the Democratic Party because the Democratic Party knows this is Obama 3.0, I guess you could say, because Obama won 2 terms. I don't want to diminish it. I mean, Obama was the first black president. Whether you like him or not, that's great. Historic. So I'm not diminishing it. I think Obamacare was better than nothing, but it's not what we need. It's a Republican health care plan. I can't afford Obamacare. I'm on Cobra right now. But it's just amazing to me to see just the elites coalescing around this guy. And then look what has happened here. Pete Buttigieg was not expected to even compete in New Hampshire. But what the Democratic Party did, this is beyond, to borrow from a legend, Noam Chomsky, this is beyond manufacturing consent. This is manufacturing a candidate. This is manufacturing a winner. They literally declared him the victor of the Iowa caucus, and you see it in the polls. He has jumped up in some polls 12 to 15 points here in New Hampshire after getting, you can't even put a price on it. You think the media gave Trump $3 billion of free airtime? They gave Pete Buttigieg this week hundreds of millions of dollars of free advertising as the winner of the Iowa caucus when we didn't have all the results. Even though we have all the results now, nobody could accurately say he won. And by the way, nobody could accurately say what Bernie Sanders' real numbers are. Who knows? Because there's errors. I mean, we know that he won the popular vote. I'm talking about this state delegate equivalent. So it's just preposterous. The whole thing is preposterous. And I could tell you something, folks, and I truly, truly do not mean this as an attack on any of the Pete Buttigieg supporters that I interviewed today. And by the way, there was several people I interviewed who are undecided and just came to hear him speak. But part of the reason they came to hear him speak is because the media is telling them that he won the Iowa caucus. So I'm not attacking them. They're not mean people. Some of them are racist. Some of them are subconsciously racist. That's just the truth. But what's amazing to me, honestly, in my travels around the country, and you guys are supporting that, statuscoup.com/join. Our goal by the New Hampshire primary is to get to 1,500 members. We're now at, my last count, we're now at 1,210. So we got a bit of a climb, 290 members to go, but I think we could do it. I think we're going to do it to get to 1,500 members. By the way, if we get to 1,500 members by the New Hampshire primary, we will be funded to cover, I believe we'll be funded to cover Nevada, the caucus there. I believe we'll be funded to cover South Carolina. Maybe Super Tuesday too. The hotel we're in is now $350 a night because everything goes up near the primaries. The flight, we didn't fly here, thankfully. Borrowed my deranged Trump supporting father's car. Love you, Larry. By the way, it's my older brother's birthday. I did call you if you're watching. I left a voicemail. My older brother, John, 36 years old. But happy birthday. But what's unbelievable to me is just these supporters of Pete Buttigieg, and I don't want to generalize, maybe somewhere there's some that know some policies of his. The reason the first question I asked was, what are some of his policies you like from South Bend, is because I just knew none of them know what he's done in South Bend because the media has created this candidate out of thin air. It's like they put him in a lab. Took a little bit of Obama, took a little bit of Hillary, took a little bit of like Barney Frank, maybe a little bit of, I don't know, name your neoliberal person, put it all together, mixed it in a salad bowl, and here you go. You listen to him speak, and I'm just saying this, it's not even to attack him, it's just accurate. There's no policies. Medicare for all who want it, I have spoken with healthcare experts who are not financially linked to the healthcare industry. They say this is not an actual policy. You can't actually have Medicare while simultaneously having a vibrant private health insurance industry. Let me explain that, because some people say, well, Canada does and other countries. No, they don't. There is a difference between having Medicare, which is just called single payer in other countries, and having private doctors, okay? Under Bernie's plan, you could be a private doctor if you don't want to participate in Medicare. People under Bernie's plan can still go to a private doctor, just like they could still go to a private doctor in Canada. There's a difference between a private doctor and the private health insurance industry. The reason you can't have Medicare and private health insurance industry is because Medicare only works if it is the single payer. With the private health insurance industry offering duplicative coverage, it doesn't work. Any health expert that doesn't work for front groups, that doesn't work for the private health insurance industry, will say this is not possible. And if you watched, it was surfacing around Twitter yesterday, Pete Buttigieg a year ago was on Morning Joe calling Medicare for all the compromise position, arguing for Medicare for all. What happened from a year ago to now? Where did Pete Buttigieg go? Couple wine caves, couple Manhattan skyscrapers with Wall Street, Napa Valley, Martha's Vineyard, Silicon Valley. You saw in New York City him coming out of big fat cats' homes, chance of Wall Street Pete. But just so wonder why he moonwalked on Medicare for all, to the point now where he's condemning it as Bernie Sanders is my way or the highway. We can't have my way or the highway. This is why I don't know Pete Buttigieg. I don't know what's in his head, what's in his heart. I do know I've been to South Bend, Indiana. We're about to play an interview from there, for those of you who haven't seen our reporting there. But I could tell you, this guy, if he gets in, he could talk till he's blue in the face about turning the page, uniting Democrats, independent Republicans. He's going to be a Wall Street Chamber of Commerce Democrat. The military budget will stay what it is, maybe higher. Maybe he'll narrowly increase taxes on the wealthy. Nothing to write home about. He ain't going to do a damn thing for the black community, I can tell you that. Climate change, he's pro-fracking. He's not going to ban fracking. His climate plan, rather modest. You see in Antarctica yesterday, it was 65 degrees in Antarctica. So the Democratic Party will tell you, but Jordan, we got to defeat Trump. Anything's better than Trump. I think we have to defeat Trump. The problem is you're not going to defeat Trump with this guy. Even with Bernie, it's going to be difficult to defeat Trump. It's not going to be a cakewalk. I think Bernie can beat him, but it's not going to be easy. And you know what? You might get somebody in office. If you get Pete Buttigieg in office, is it going to be verbally better than Trump? Yeah. Is there going to be less violent and vile tweets? Yes. Is it going to be on the margins better policy-wise? Yes. Is Pete Buttigieg going to save the planet from destruction? No, he will not. Because Pete Buttigieg has showed he is a servant to the donor class. What he means by... If I ever got in front of him, I would say, how are you turning the page when you're basically using the Joe Biden, Barack Obama, Hillary Clinton playbook? When you say, we need everything, we need every single resource we can to go up against Trump. Meaning that's why I'm sucking up the billionaires around the country. Well, Bernie Sanders isn't doing it, and he's raised more money than you. So what does this mean? That we need all the resources? Well, Bernie Sanders has been doing it a completely different way from the people. And he's raising more money than you. So we don't have to do it your way, Pete. The reason you're doing it this way is because you don't have core convictions. Just like, frankly, and I've been saying this for a while, I don't think Warren is as bad as Pete, but she doesn't have any core convictions. They're all flexible. And that's why there's an anti-establishment fervor in this country to stop flexibility that sells out the people. So for those of you that haven't seen it, and I'm assuming that we have a new audience here, a lot of new audience. I actually want to play a clip that's not about Pete's. There's been a lot of focus on what he did towards black people in South Bend, and rightly so. But I actually want to play a different clip that I think shows something that hasn't been focused on that much. And that is that really what he did was gentrify the city, not just against poor black people, but against just poor people in general, poor white people. Because this is the real story. As much as he's done terrible things with the black community, and we're going to play two videos. This woman, what she's about to say, really tells a story of Pete Buttigieg that the corporate media has hid from you. Let's take a look.
Bit here because I believe you preface.
Hold on one second. Hold on one sec.
This round of discussion with a question about, what is Mayor Pete's actual position with the homeless. And Mayor Pete has gone on record numerous times. You can browse through the South Bend Tribune. You can look up things he said about what his vision of South Bend is. And he has said repeatedly that he wants South Bend to be the home of the affluent and the educated. He won't show up to an event for the homeless, but he'll show up to an event of a ribbon cutting for $300,000 homes that cost $300,000. Did you see him at that ribbon cutting? Well, yeah, he's all proud of that because that represents his vision of what South Bend is. And he's on record saying it repeatedly. The affluent, the educated. So what that says to me is he doesn't even know his community. Okay? Sure, we have Notre Dame, we have Bethel, we have good educational systems within the city, but the city has never been a place of the affluent. The city has always been the hardworking grunts, the people who live paycheck to paycheck, you know, the people who hit the ground running. And so I am insulted every time I hear Mayor Pete say South Bend should be a home for the affluent, a home for the educated. Means he knows nothing about who the people of South Bend are and who the people of South Bend have always been. We are basically the worker bees. We make things happen. And it doesn't mean that we're not educated, but what it says to me is he is out of touch with his own constituents. He is out of touch with what South Bend really represents.
And what would that foreshadow to you if he became the Democratic nominee for President of the United States?
Basically, it's the same thing, right? I mean, it's what's ever good for the educated, what's ever good for, you know, I mean, if you're way up in the income bracket, well, then you're important to him. But if you're an everyday worker, if you have to, you know, work 12 hours a day, well, it's not going to mean anything to him. If you're struggling to make ends meet, it's not going to matter to him. You want to go out, you want to pay your mortgage, you want to make your car payment, you want to pay your taxes, whatever. That's what you're working for, you know. And yeah, we all want to better ourselves, but, you know, I mean, that's not the reality. All of us don't. There's a great commercial by Southern New Hampshire University, I think it is, where the gentleman says that opportunity is not distributed equally. And, you know, but like potential is. Like we all have potential. But the opportunity to reach that potential is not distributed equally. And, you know, I think that that's a great way of saying where we are, not just in the country, but in the city as well. We don't all have the same opportunities. Doesn't mean we don't have potential. So, I mean, if he were to, God forbid, I don't want him to be president, but, you know, I mean, I think he would just forget about all of us, you know, and like Clara so eloquently said, the middle class is shrinking, 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 you know, so who's his base going to be? You know, who's he going to pander to?
Hope you enjoyed that last video. Hop on. You know what infuriates me the most? You never see just incredible people like that on CNN. You rarely see them quoted in the New York Times. You don't see actual working people. You don't see the activists on the ground. That was a meeting we went to shoot of activists after a homeless man froze to death in South Bend. Not the first homeless man to freeze to death in South Bend while Pete was mayor. You never see these people. Forget Sarah Palin's Real America. That's real America. Poor white people, poor black people, poor brown people, poor indigenous people. They are the people getting squeezed. They are the people economically being strangled so that Pete and Neera Tanden and all these people could go eat cake. That's the truth. That's why we go around the country. And by the way, we don't have funding. Our funding is from you. That's why it's so amazing. It's like, I'm Jewish, but it's like Christmas every time I see an email with new members. Statuscoup.com/join. We go where it isn't sexy to go. We go where it isn't clicks. We don't go. Most of our stuff does not go viral. But that's what's beautiful about being funded by the people. You don't have to do things based on going viral. because our model is not based on meeting an advertising quota. We don't have any advertising other than the Trump ads that randomly play on our YouTube page that we have no control about. We don't have any advertising. We don't have any corporate sponsors. We don't have any of that. It's just membership, statuscoup.com/join, whatever money we make on YouTube, which is different every month. Hopefully, as we grow, we could get larger funding, but we don't want larger funding from plutocrats. For example, right in the beginning of Status Coup, when we were a little baby, we got 50 grand as an investment from a viewer that I met at a conference. A progressive guy from Indiana. I'm not going to say his name because he doesn't want to, but he ain't a plutocrat. He owns a tech company. He's a progressive. He actually does activism work and organizing in his community. He don't fund the Democratic Party, the Republican Party, but he liked my work at the Young Turks and he invested in us. And that 50 grand, we bought our original equipment and brought, at the time, Ty on. Other than that, and by the way, 50 grand is not a lot to start a company. That's very little. That's all we had. Since then, we grew through GoFundMe because you supported us. I think, we haven't been promoting GoFundMe because we met our goal, but it still exists. So people sometimes still donate there. But it's just incredible to me. And you want to know something? Oh, we just got another new member. Welcome, new member, Erin. Let me see what we're at now. We are at 1,213 members. Keep it coming. On our way to 1,500. But what's so amazing to me is I always say, and when we've pitched Status Coup to potential funders, and by the way, we're only going for progressive funders. We're not looking for like George Soros or whichever Koch brother is still alive. We don't want their money. And we will not take money from banks, fossil fuckers, Big Pharma, big real estate, Silicon Valley, no thank you. And by the way, there's been 1 or 2 offers. We said no. But what's amazing to me, and I always say this, we don't have any competition. I don't even say that arrogantly. We don't have any competition because the places we go, there's so few media. I go to Flint. There's no national media covering Flint anymore. We went to Seattle last year to cover Amazon's economic terrorism of Seattle. The homeless problem in Seattle is mostly because Amazon has driven up the rent in Seattle by 70%. No national media was there. We went to Dallas last year because a 26-year-old black man by the name of Botham John was hanging out in his apartment one night when a white police officer invaded his home and shot him dead. And then she claimed she thought it was her apartment. Thank God there was finally some justice somewhere for a black man. She was convicted. But we went down there. There was no national media covering it on the ground. I mean, we went to Virginia where activists were literally protesting at the top of their trees on their own property. They built tree houses and they sat in it for over 30 days so that the fossil fuckers could not knock down their trees in order to frack and put a natural gas pipeline under their property. We went down there. We had no funding to go down there. We paid for it on my dime. I mean, so many stories. We went to Detroit and Ohio last year when General Motors laid off 15,000 people. CNN covered it as like a headline. We were there. And I'm not saying that to give ourselves a tap on the wrist. What I'm saying is it's very, I don't want to say easy. It's very doable to cover real America, not Sarah Palin's real America meaning the controlled demolition of working people, the controlled demolition of whatever the middle class was, the controlled assassination of black and brown and indigenous America. The problem is corporate outlets don't do it because they're owned by multi-billion-dollar corporate conglomerates. They don't want to show the truth. That kind of conflicts with the status quo. Independent media, I'm just going to keep it real. I used to work at the Young Turks. Happy for the opportunity there. Obviously, it didn't end well, but that's okay. That's in the past. I don't really see them doing much of this anymore either. They've decided to go 24/7 Trump, Russia, and whatever. Good for them. God bless. But I don't see many independent outlets out there doing the work, not when it's sexy, not when there's not a lot of clicks in there. But we're doing it because to me, there is nothing more gratifying to me, not just as a journalist, but as a person, other than my family that I love, other than my girlfriend who's watching, who I love very much, Anat, Jen, my co-founder, what do you say, sister from another mother? You know, brother from another mother, sister from another mother, best friend. There's no more gratifying, Colin too, who's been with us since the beginning. There's no more gratifying feeling to me than a person coming up to you and saying, thank you. Nobody else is covering this. Nobody else is telling our story. What better thing could you do for a living? Other than like being a doctor and saving people's lives. For me, what better thing that I could do than tell people stories? You know, sometimes you go into these places and it's almost like people treat you like it's like people treat you like you're the rescue chopper. Because they're just dying for somebody to give a damn. I mean, Jen and I have been working on a story now, it seems like for 10 years, but for cover several months. It's supposed to come out the next few weeks. I know I've been saying that for a while, but we actually gave the outlet that we're doing it for a deadline of March 1st, or like, fuck it, we'll just put it out ourselves. But anyway, I could go on. I could go on forever. I don't want to be like Uncle Joe and be like, oh, I'm out of time. I could go on a rant forever. But the bottom line is, if you're new to Status Coup, this is what we do. This is how we roll. We're funded by you. We have 4 different plans. You can become a member at $5 a month. You can become a member at $10 a month. You can become a member at $20 a month. You can become a member at $179 annually. We love you all equally. I'm just going to keep it real. We love the higher you could go, the better. However, we set it at $5 because we want everybody to be involved. But I think what's important here, the days of just shitting on the corporate media and that being enough are over. Don't complain about corporate media if you're not willing to put some skin in the game to create a counter. To be honest with you, this is not to criticize the Young Turks in any way. But I would have never been able to do what I'm doing now there. It's not because I'm criticizing them. It's not because they don't have their own place in this ecosystem. But the bottom line is there was some pushback towards the end for me to continue to go to Flint, to continue to go to these places, because they weren't seeing immediate payoffs, if you know what I mean. And that's fine. They have a different model. You know, theirs wasn't as much based on membership. But our model is based on membership. And if we keep growing as members, the beautiful thing is we're liberated. We don't have to worry about, oh, well, I don't know if we could go there because we don't really think that's going to get a lot of views. Well, it doesn't matter how many views we get as long as we have this similar amount of money coming in every month. And by the way, it's not just to cover travel. We need to be able to hire another reporter or two. I ain't no spring chicken. I can't go at this pace for the rest of my life. I'm 33. My body is going on 50 right now. I just had 2 back surgeries in 2 years. Thank the Lord, I'm doing a little better now. But we need to hire another reporter. We need to hire another marketing person because Jen can't do it all on her own. And frankly, if you've seen Jen's work, we want her to do more journalism. I'd rather somebody come in as a marketing, social media, digital media person, somebody who could come in, help us grow our email list. Obviously, Jen would still be involved. She's the president of the company. But we want her to do more research, reporting, on camera, off camera. By the way, fully admit it, she is a hell of a... This woman knows how to research, far beyond me. I have my skills. I have things I'm not as good at. Don't piss Jen off because she knows where the bodies are buried. She will find things if you give her time. So we'd love to have Jen be able to move her over to journalism. But I mean, this does not grow on trees. We got to grow. We got to grow. So statuscoup.com/join. We're going to sign off so Jamal can turn around these clips so we could get them up on the channel. Please, 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 your work is not done. Go to @StatusCoop on Twitter. I'm @Chariton on Twitter. We're going to be posting these clips. I have to talk to Jen, probably at this point, post them on my Twitter, which has a bigger following, just so we can get it out now. But get this stuff out. People need to see what's going on with Pete Buttigieg's campaign. And you know what I think is really telling as I finish? and I just want to make sure that I'm right before I say this. What's really telling to me, Pete Buttigieg's press secretary and communications director, I promise you, they know what happened. I don't know what it's at, but last time I looked, the tweet of what happened was at 2,000 retweets. That's a pretty big number. So they know what happened here. His person has seen the email I sent to him. The fact that I think 2.5 hours later, they have not responded to my email, which has my phone number in it, attempted to contact us, says a lot about their campaign. The fact that, yes, one person apologized, very nice girl, but the fact that they did not respond to that email or call to apologize says a lot. It says they don't care. They truly don't care. And you want to know something? I think that woman that came up that apologized, I think she meant it. I actually think she genuinely was kind of horrified at what was going on. I could kind of tell, like, she was, and this kind of reflects, the New York Times reported on this a couple weeks ago, that there are staffers in Pete Buttigieg's campaign, particularly black staffers, but some white, that are very uncomfortable with some of the things that have gone on, are very uncomfortable with the fact that they are working for a candidate that has such little support among black voters. They've had such trouble bringing on more black staff. I guess they haven't had a lot of applicants for his campaign. That the workplace culture, that they were immediately going up to Latino and Latina workers and asking them to translate certain things, just assuming that they spoke Spanish. So, says a lot. Whether the people of New Hampshire that are 100%, well, not 100%, but almost 100% white, whether they care, that I don't know. All right, we want to get this turned around, so we're going to sign off. Thank you for watching. There's a few more things you could do. Sign up for our email list, statuscoup.com. Enter your email there. You'll see a little pop-up. Sign up, statuscoup.com. Enter your email. We won't send 25,000 emails. We send, when we're in the field, we send one every day. But overall, we don't send as many emails as you're getting from Biden and Bernie and all these people. If you're already signed up on our email list, check your spam. Make sure we're not going to your spam, because we are going to a lot of people's spam. And if we go into your spam, do what you got to do to mark it unspammed, that this is not spam. Also, if you want to get around the YouTube suppression, because we are being suppressed on YouTube like nobody's business, they hide us in a cave. Go to text right now, COUP to 474747. Text COUP to 474747. That will get you added to our text list. We usually send out a text when we're in the field. These texts are pricey. It's such a scam. I think right now we're paying like $40 per text, because the more people that sign up to the text list, the more they charge us. But this is a way to make sure you know when we're live, because YouTube, if we're lucky, will notify you like 20 minutes later. Sometimes they notify you a day later. I've had cases where they notify my cameraman like a week later. It's insane what YouTube is doing. Also, for the cool kids in the back, Instagram.com/statuscoup. Instagram.com/statuscoup. We're trying to grow on Instagram. Twitch.tv/statuscoup. We're trying to grow on Twitch. That's twitch.tv/statuscoup. What am I forgetting? @statuscoup on the Twitter. And that's it. You want to say anything before we sign off?
Yes, that's @statuscoup on Instagram. Just go on Instagram and type in statuscoup. We're right there.
Give the people a little plug for your Twitter.
Yes, you can find me at Cinematic Jones. That's at Cinematic Jones, CINEMATIC Jones. Yeah.
And just so we give you a little idea, I got to look at the schedule here. I don't know if we're going to be welcome at any more Pete events tomorrow. After this, I don't know if we'll be welcome at any more Pete events. We'll see about that. So we'll see what happens. We might go to cover some more Bernie events tomorrow. Maybe Biden at this point. I mean, I think his political carcass is kind of dead. Not his living carcass, but politically, I don't know about Biden. Maybe stop by Klobuchar. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what happens. If we get a response to the Buttigieg campaign, you will know. But follow me at Jordan Chariton. Follow at Status Coup on the Twitter. We're going to turn these videos around real quick. Get it out. Thank you for watching. Peace.